Hi, this is Darcy Castro. I wrote a little book. It's called How I Feel About Dad's Brain Tumor. I thought I would read this book and post this video for friends and new friends that might have a deficit or difficulty reading or just aren't able to access my book in the print form that still want to hear it. So I'm going to read it for you. And the little caveat is that there's a lot going on in this house right now. I am recording this from my home office. I cannot guarantee that a dog or a kid is not going to bust through the door and make an appearance in this video. So stay with me. So this is How I Feel About Dad's Brain Tumor by Darcy Castro. For Amy, Diego, and Alejandro. Note to readers. Hey friends, my name is Darcy, and when I was a kid, my dad was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I learned a lot from my experience, and I want to share that with you. Some words you will come across in this book are in bold print. To learn more about these terms, refer to the glossary. When you're finished, you can move on to the guided journal. It's a creative way for you to share and express your feelings about what's happening in your family, and to share that with your parent or other trusted adult if you want. When you first find out your parent has a brain tumor, it can be overwhelming, and you might not exactly know how to feel or even be frightened of your emotions. When it happened to my family, I think a lot of people in my life didn't know what to say to me, and I felt very alone. I wrote this book especially for you. You need support and encouragement, and to know that there are many kids and families who have shared your same feelings. You are not alone. So now I'm going to read you the foreword that was written by a friend of mine who is a licensed clinical social worker. It is a true pleasure and honor to be an early reader of How I Feel About Dad's Brain Tumor, but an even greater privilege to know and celebrate my friend, the author Darcy Castro. Darcy is someone I deeply admire for her integrity, passion, drive, and endless pursuit to be and bring good into this world. This work does just that. As a medical social worker for over 17 years, I have sat with individuals who are experiencing this type of diagnosis and have witnessed the impact this disease brings to individuals and their families. This book and journal is a gift for parents, kids, and all who love them. It is a working resource that can be utilized to help kids decompress, address difficult topics, process the range of emotions that a child can experience, and a coping tool for a child and their family system. Words matter. The language that Darcy uses and the helpful glossary are extremely thoughtful. I have seen many parents shy away from words like tumor or cancer and use generalized terms such as sick or even boo-boo in fear of scaring their children or fearing that their children are not capable of understanding more advanced language. While children can developmentally grow in understanding of terms, it is powerful to use correct language to give your child a voice and a seat in the conversation. Additionally, it helps kids not transfer their fears or concerns to the word sick, to what is happening to their parent or loved one in real time. Everyone gets sick. Not everyone gets a brain tumor. Darcy's use of language is powerful for the children utilizing this book. Being brave. So many parents or caregivers who struggle with this type of diagnosis put on a brave face for their children. So many children living in these homes mirror that courage and affect to support their loved one. Being brave does not mean we are not afraid. It means we show up anyway. There is nothing like cancer that helps us learn this lesson more. It is important for kids to know that grown-ups are sometimes afraid too, so that we give our children permission and space to share when they are afraid or unsure. The bravery comes from showing up together no matter how we feel. Darcy does a wonderful job talking about the bravery it took to show up for her family during this time, but also highlighting who she reached out to when she needed support. Feelings are important. The range of feelings a child can feel while coping with a parent or loved one with a brain tumor is huge. Darcy talks about the many emotions she had about her dad's brain tumor, all mixed up with the fun and activities of being a regular kid. When you have a parent who is living with a brain tumor, there are times you don't feel like a regular kid. Any kid experiencing this understands what it is like to carry. It is important for children to understand that any feelings they have will be honored and supported. Parents or loved ones living with this diagnosis should help their child know other trusted adults they can also speak to or connect their child with the school social worker or therapist for additional support. Modeling to our kids the ability to ask for and receive help is the most powerful self-care lesson a child can learn. On resilience. No adult who loves a child ever wants them to endure pain or difficulties. Most parents strive to protect their children from challenging emotions or life events. A parent diagnosed with a brain tumor has that desire taken away from them. However, every difficulty a child encounters is an opportunity for them with support to 1, learn to reach out for help, 2, strengthen coping strategies, 3, develop resiliency. Growing resiliency in your children through the no big deal hard times and in the really hard times, like facing a parent's brain tumor diagnosis, allows children to practice their coping through stress and builds children's confidence that they are able to move through life's difficulties. Resilience allows children to feel more in control in stressful times and helps them become more optimistic, compassionate, and capable. It helps them develop strength and character and helps them to know they are able to support others during challenging times. There is no doubt in my mind that Darcy, bearing witness to her dad's brain tumor, was formative for her as a person and has helped her to become the compassionate, generous, and graceful person she is today. Resilience presented the opportunity to truly understand her experiences as a child and to help others. This journal can be used by your child on her own, but it can also be a beautiful way to initiate supportive conversations with each other. It will help kids and parents honor each other's feelings and garner support during this difficult time. While I wish that families didn't have to face this, I am so glad that Darcy has used her talent and compassion to create this tremendous resource for kids and parents who are walking this journey together. And this was written by Holly Reddy Cooper, MSW, LISCW, Clinical Social Worker. Thank you, Holly. My story. On a warm July afternoon in Oregon, the summer before I started 6th grade, my older sister and I went to the movies with some neighborhood friends. This was 1987, which may seem like a long time ago. For me, it kind of seems like it was yesterday, because on that day, it felt like my life changed forever. We had a great time at the movies while my parents stayed home. It was the first time they let us go to the movies without them, and we felt very grown up. When my friend's mom dropped us off that night, we found a note taped to our front door that said we needed to go to our neighbor's house. This was before the time of cell phones and texting, when we actually wrote notes on paper. I know, so strange. Our next door neighbor, Debbie, was a kind woman who was good friends with our family. It still makes me smile to think of her. My sister and I walked the short path between our two houses, and Debbie was waiting at the door, but she looked a little anxious. She told us that something had happened to my dad, maybe a heart attack, and that my mom had to call 911. An ambulance, fire truck, and police car had come to our house with their lights and sirens on, and the paramedics took my dad to the hospital. I couldn't even imagine all that commotion. Nothing out of the ordinary ever happened to us. Later that night, my mom came home from the hospital and told us that the doctor said my dad actually had a seizure. It had been a big seizure called a grand mal, which causes the muscles to tense up all over and makes the body shake really hard. I think this seizure frightened my mother, especially since my dad had always been healthy. These days, they call this type of seizure a Tonic-Clonic Seizure. The seizure had caused my dad to fall and lose consciousness, and it lasted several minutes. Afterwards, he was very confused, tired, and cranky. It took him quite some time to feel comfortable again, even after he arrived at the hospital. He stayed there that night to get some rest, and so the doctors could do a few important tests. My dad also began taking medications to try to stop any other seizures, and he would have to take that medication for many, many years. My mom told me that the doctor thought maybe my dad had epilepsy, which is kind of like an electrical problem in the brain that causes seizures. Or it could be a brain tumor. I was shocked to hear those words, and I was very confused and worried. They did some tests on him in the hospital, including a CAT scan, but the doctors still weren't sure what caused the seizure. Over the next week, they met with many more doctors. It was a frustrating time because they said it would be a while before we had answers to what was happening to my dad. Waiting for anything is hard, and waiting to find out what had caused my dad to have the seizure was really difficult for me. A few weeks later, he had the first MRI taken of his brain. This powerful machine makes images of the inside of a body. It's kind of like a giant magnet inside a tube that my dad would lay down in that is very noisy and lasts about 45 minutes. My dad had lots of MRIs over the years, and he would fall asleep always during them, even though it was so loud. I thought it was funny that he could sleep through all that ruckus. Because an MRI can see things deep inside the body, the doctors were able to detect that it was in fact a primary brain tumor growing in the front corner of my father's brain in an area that is called the right frontal lobe. They decided that the best thing was to do another MRI in a few months to see if the tumor was changing. During the time we were waiting, my dad had another seizure, and this time I was with him when it happened. I got really scared. After that, I was nervous to be with my dad. I was constantly worried, and that's a pretty cruddy way to feel all the time. My mom did her best to try to explain things to us, but it was confusing and stressful for her too. It was hard for me to ask for help with all that I was feeling, and I felt like I needed to manage my worry on my own. It was especially hard because my friends at school seemed to be going on with life as usual, while my world was feeling really unsteady. The neurologist decided that the brain tumor had to be removed right away. How doctors treat a brain tumor depends on its size, type, and location, and if it is changing. My dad's tumor was growing quickly and had to be treated. It was in an area that would be somewhat easy for the doctors to remove with surgery. Not long after, the day came for the surgery called a craniotomy. I went to school just like any other day, but my dad had to stay in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. Thankfully, these days, people can recover and go home much faster. I'm really not sure how my dad was feeling inside when that day came. He didn't say much about his feelings, and that made it hard for me to share my feelings with him. During the surgery, his doctor was able to learn a lot more about the brain tumor. By looking at the cells of the tumor under a microscope, other doctors were able to find out that the exact type of tumor was an oligodendroglioma. That was really important information because it helped them determine how to plan for his treatment. That day was also the first time anyone had said the word cancer when talking about my dad and his brain tumor. I felt very surprised to hear it, and it frightened me. I wish someone would have given me more information about what was going on, but my parents were doing their best to manage a stressful situation. I remember that during this time, one of my dance teachers, Bonnie, told me that when she was my age, the same thing happened to her dad. I was so surprised. I felt like we were the only people in the world to go through this. I felt different, and that made me feel alone. Knowing that Bonnie had a similar experience made me feel better somehow and a little less worried. It was hard for me to talk about back then, and being able to talk to an adult outside my family about it was very comforting. By this point, it was almost the end of the school year, and I was in 6th grade, so I had a lot of activities, and my parents didn't want me to miss them. While my dad was in the hospital, they thought it best that I continue my days as usual. I even went on a trip with my dance group, then to an outdoor school camp. I had a good time, but I spent a lot of time worrying about my dad. When I finally got home, my dad was there, and it was just the two of us in the house. It was the first time I had seen him since he had surgery. He had a large incision across the front of his head, closed up with what looked like staples. I tried to be brave for him, but inside I felt nervous. "Hey, Dart, count my staples," he said, calling me by my nickname and motioning for me to come to him. My dad liked to joke around, and he was doing what he could to lighten the mood. He had me count all the tiny staples that the surgeon had used to close up his incision. I did a good job of enjoying being with my dad again, despite the worry I felt inside that made my stomach feel like it was in knots. I felt nervous to be around him then, and that made me feel a little guilty because he was my dad, and I thought I shouldn't feel nervous. I did eventually realize that how I felt during the whole experience of my dad's illness was okay. It's okay to be afraid, nervous, angry, sad, or however you feel. It's part of being a person. Those feelings won't stick around forever, or at least feel out of your control. I didn't feel that way forever. We had a lot of ups and downs over the years. My dad's brain tumor and also the surgery caused him to have a hard time finding the right words when he was trying to talk. He wasn't allowed to drive for several months. He would also get angry very easily because the area of his brain that was damaged by the tumor affected his ability to fully control his mood and feelings. These are called deficits and can happen as a result of the brain tumor, the surgery, or treatments. The kind of deficits depend on the area of the brain that is affected by the tumor. Sometimes I felt sad or angry because my dad struggled with these deficits, and over the years I had to learn to be a little more patient than usual. In those early days, my dad had a treatment called radiation to help keep the tumor from growing back. The radiation caused him to lose all his hair on the front half of his head, and only a little bit ever grew back. In later years, he also had a special chemotherapy treatment that was useful, which did not cause him to lose his hair like what happens to some people with cancer that go through traditional chemotherapy. It felt good to see him manage his treatments well. It reminded me of how strong and determined he was during these years, and that still makes me feel proud. These days, there are more treatments available, including better radiation and chemotherapy and stereotactic radiosurgery to treat tumors that could not be safely reached with older treatments. My family had to have a lot of patience and understanding and to make some adjustments in our daily life. This was not easy, but our life had changed a lot since we found out about my dad's brain tumor. Things were just different, and we eventually adjusted. Over time, life settled down and things felt more back to normal, and I was happy for that. It was hard for me to talk about my feelings. I felt nervous inside, and I didn't understand that it was important to ask my parents or other grown-ups for help with those feelings. People around me seemed worried, but few spoke to me directly about what was going on. I think a lot of them just didn't know what to say or assumed I was doing okay. I didn't realize that I could ask for help. Talking to a trusted adult about your feelings is a wonderful tool to help yourself feel better. If no one offers, don't be shy. Just ask to talk about your feelings. I remember when we studied the brain in school for science class and how I felt strange just hearing the word brain. I was scared. That's a lot of feelings for a kid to manage. You might feel that way too, and it's okay. I'm still grateful for my neighbor, Debbie. She was a trusted adult and friend to our family that I could spend time with, and I felt that I could talk to about some of this stuff. That helped me a lot. I even met a kid at school whose dad went through almost the same thing. It made me feel a lot better just knowing that we weren't the only ones. This experience was really hard to talk about openly inside my family. My parents were stressed and worried, so I'm lucky I had trusted adults I could talk to. I see now that we could have done things a little better, and I hope this book helps families like mine do just that. In fact, there are many kids that have been in your same shoes with the same feelings. You are not alone. You might feel worried or scared or confused, or sometimes you might not have any feelings at all. However, you don't have to feel this way alone. Talk to your parents, teacher, school counselor, coach, youth pastor, friend, or another trusted adult. Find someone you feel comfortable with and share the thoughts that are swirling around in your head. You don't have to figure everything out, but talking about those feelings will help you feel better. You can also make art and express your feelings in a creative way. Sometimes when a kid or grown-up has a hard time finding the words to explain how they feel, or doesn't want to talk about it, making art can be a great way to help manage and understand those feelings. Art can be whatever you want it to be: crafting, painting, writing, singing, playing a musical instrument, or whatever feels right for you. There are no limits on what form it can take. The important thing is that you do what you want to, express your thoughts and feelings, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. You will grow as a person as well, and in the future, you will be able to manage difficult situations even better because you have practiced these important skills. Another strategy that can be positive for you and your family is getting involved with an organization like the National Brain Tumor Society, the American Cancer Society, or the American Brain Tumor Association. These groups often have special events and fundraisers. Participating in these events, or even planning your own, can help you feel empowered and have a positive effect for other families like yours. Want to make a difference in the future? Maybe your family's experience will inspire you to become a caregiver, social worker, nurse, doctor, surgeon, or researcher. Some of the greatest innovations have come from people just like you who wanted to change something. There have been many advances in the treatment of brain tumors, but perhaps your special talent and understanding will lead to something new that will help families like yours one day. For example, I've written this book for you based on my own experience in the hope that my story and this guide can help you and your family. How will you use your talents to help others? I know brain tumors and cancer can be a scary subject, even for those outside of our families that are not going through what we're experiencing. Ask someone to listen. Make something creative to show how you feel. Be a good friend to others, and be kind to yourself. You are not alone. Now I'm going to read to you the glossary of important terms that were highlighted throughout the book. Brain tumor. A tumor is a growth of abnormal cells within the body. Cells make up every part of our bodies, and they all have an important job. Sometimes a cell can become abnormal and begin to divide and replicate quickly. This leads to a mass of abnormal cells that can be harmful to the body. When a tumor is in the brain, it is called a brain tumor. Seizure. Our miraculous brains tell our body what to do through small electrical impulses. A sudden and uncontrollable electrical disruption inside the brain is called a seizure. Seizures can be subtle or cause someone to lose consciousness, pass out, and shake uncontrollably, affect their mood, or disrupt other senses. Sometimes it is called a fit or convulsion. A brain tumor can cause seizures because it interrupts the brain's ability to send its electrical impulses correctly. Grand mal. In the past, tonic-clonic seizures were called grand mal seizures. Medical professionals changed the names and definitions of the different types of seizures to help patients and doctors better diagnose and treat them. Tonic-clonic. A tonic-clonic seizure causes intense muscular activity. Tonic means stiff, and clonic means twitching or jerking. This kind of seizure can last several minutes and causes the body to shake very hard. Epilepsy. An electrical disorder of the brain that causes seizures is called epilepsy. People with epilepsy control their seizure disorder with medications. CAT scan. CAT stands for Computed Axial Tomography. This scan helps to see inside the body by using a computer to combine multiple X-ray images that help doctors try to understand an illness or symptom. MRI. Magnetic resonance imaging, called an MRI, is a body imaging scan that uses a magnetic field and computer-generated radio waves to look inside the body. An X-ray is useful to see hard things like bones, but an MRI is able to look at soft things like the brain and other important organs, and is an important tool for doctors to figure out the source of a medical problem. Primary brain tumor. A primary brain tumor begins in the brain or close surrounding areas of the brain and rarely spreads to other areas of the body. A brain tumor that is formed as a result of cancer from another part of the body moving or spreading to the brain, called metastasizing, is a metastatic or secondary brain tumor. Brain tumors are categorized in several different ways depending on the type of cell in the tumor. Some tumors grow quickly and must be treated, while others stay the same for many years and don't require any course of treatment. Frontal lobe. To study and gain a better understanding of the brain, doctors consider each half of the brain to be in 4 categories or lobes: frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal. Each of these areas directs the body in all its functions, like breathing, thinking, and walking. The frontal lobe is responsible for emotional control, personality, problem solving, memory, and other important functions. Neurologist. A neurologist is a doctor who specializes in treating diseases in the nervous system, which include the brain and spinal cord. When it is suspected that someone may have a brain tumor, oftentimes a neurologist is the first specialist the patient sees to help determine what is really going on and what the next step should be. A specialist called a neuro-oncologist may also be involved in the treatment and care of a patient who has a cancerous brain tumor. Craniotomy. A craniotomy is surgery performed on the brain. Because our brain is protected by our bony skull, in this type of surgery, an area of the skull must be carefully removed and replaced after the surgeon has performed a delicate and precise operation to the brain. Doctors that perform this specialized surgery are called neurosurgeons. Oligodendroglioma. An oligodendroglioma is a type of brain tumor that is part of the group of brain tumors called gliomas that usually occur in the frontal or temporal lobes and mostly affect only adults. Cancer. Cancer is a disease that happens when cells in the body divide and replicate uncontrollably and invade surrounding areas. Our bodies are made up of trillions of cells that go through a life cycle of growing and dividing. Sometimes that life cycle process does not go as it should, and unhealthy or damaged cells aren't replaced by normal cells. These troublesome cells can grow where they are not supposed to be, which can become a cancerous tumor. Some cancers are not in the form of tumors, but can affect the blood or immune system. Special note: it is important to understand that brain tumors can be cancerous or benign, meaning it is not cancer. And this is usually determined by the rate of growth of the tumor. A benign tumor may have been growing slowly for a long time and only discovered once the tumor grew large enough to cause noticeable symptoms. It may be useful for you to ask your parents' neuro-oncologist or neurologist for more information if this is something that you would like to better understand. Incision. An incision is the spot where a doctor or surgeon carefully cuts into the body to perform surgery or other medical procedures. Depending on the size, it is closed with sutures, which can be stitches or something that looks like a staple that will help the body in the healing process. The incision must be treated carefully and kept clean while it heals. Deficits. A brain tumor, craniotomy, or other disease that affects the brain can sometimes, unfortunately, cause damage to the brain. A deficit is when the brain cannot fully perform its functions. Deficits can be cognitive, like thinking, reasoning, and emotional control, or physical, like seeing, hearing, walking, or talking. The great news is the brain is neuroplastic, which means that it can kind of rewire itself and relearn how to do things. Working with different types of therapists can help manage or overcome these impairments. Radiation. Radiation therapy is a type of treatment for cancer and brain tumors that uses high-powered X-rays to destroy tumor cells. It is typically used after the brain tumor has been removed surgically to make sure that any tumor cells that remain will be destroyed. Radiation can also be used to treat brain tumors that are in a place in the brain that cannot safely be removed by surgery. Radiation treatments can also be placed surgically into the tumor itself and work to destroy the tumor from the inside out. Chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is a treatment for cancer that uses special drugs to destroy cancer cells and stop them from growing. Only special kinds of chemotherapy can be used to treat a primary brain tumor because the brain is protected by a special barrier that prevents traditional types of chemotherapy from entering the brain. This type of chemotherapy has different side effects. For instance, many people associate chemotherapy with hair loss. My dad did not lose his remaining hair and only felt somewhat tired during the treatment. Stereotactic radiosurgery. This specialized treatment uses computer imaging to more precisely pinpoint a brain tumor and treat it without damaging delicate areas of the brain. It is called gamma knife or cyberknife. It is not actually surgery in the traditional sense, but a type of precise radiation therapy. Social worker. A social worker is a professional that works to improve the lives of individuals, families, and communities. Social workers have jobs in hospitals, schools, clinics, and other places where people need help. Now, here are some quick facts. From the American Brain Tumor Society, the National Foundation for Cancer Research, and the American Brain Tumor Association as of 2019. An estimated 700,000 Americans are living with a brain tumor. An estimated 86,970 people will receive a primary brain tumor diagnosis in 2019. The most prevalent brain tumor types in adults are meningiomas, 37.1%, and gliomas, such as glioblastoma, ependymiomas, astrocytomas, and oligodendrogliomas, 81%. There are more than 130 types of brain tumors, many with their own multitudes of subtypes. Brain tumors can affect both men and women of all races, ethnicities, and backgrounds. The cause of brain tumors is unknown. Scientists are studying different risk factors and working to create more treatments. There is no definitive evidence that cell phone use increases the risk of cancer. A brain tumor is not contagious, and you cannot get a brain tumor from your parents. Only 5 to 10% of brain tumors have a hereditary component, and in this case, it is only a mutation of a gene that is passed down, which may or may not affect the cells in the body. The chance that a person will develop a malignant tumor of the brain or spinal cord in his or her lifetime is less than 1%. A primary malignant brain tumor is a rare type of cancer, accounting for only 1.4% of all new cancer cases in the US. Most brain tumors are not brain cancer, and less than 1/3 of brain tumors are cancerous. Brain tumors are assigned grade 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on abnormalities of the cells they contain. For example, my dad's original diagnosis was an oligodendroglioma brain tumor that was between a grade 2 and grade 3. This meant it was somewhere in the middle of a slow to fast-growing tumor. Now I'm going to read to you from the guided journal, just so you get an idea of what's in here. These exercises are things you can do on your own with a parent or trusted adult and shared with others to help you cope with how you are feeling. Be free in your responses. This is to help you navigate and understand your emotions because you and your feelings matter. Who in your family has a brain tumor? When did you find out? How does this make you feel? What is your favorite thing about this person? Write a paragraph that describes what has happened in your family. Draw a picture if that helps you express your feelings. List or draw things you can control, like your reactions and doing your homework. List or draw things you can't control, like the weather, how other people act, and such. Circle the words that describe your feelings. Write down others if needed. Scared, optimistic, nervous, tired, afraid, happy, loving, grumpy, angry, grateful, jumpy, calm, sleepy, stressed, hopeful. Write a paragraph about what you want your parent to know. You can share this with them or not. Express your thoughts and feelings about how their illness is affecting you. List or draw things that have changed since your parent was diagnosed. List or draw things that have stayed the same. Take your favorite pens, markers, colored pencils, or crayons and spend some quiet time coloring in the following pages when you need a moment to calm your thoughts. Come back to them whenever you need a moment of relaxation. Start with your own original artwork here. So these next few pages include artwork that was submitted by kids, for kids. So if you'd like to do some of these drawings, you can get the book and color them in. They were very carefully crafted by kids of all different ages to help kids just like you. Write down 3 things that have been bothering you. Write down 3 things that make you happy. Glue or tape a photo of your family here. Who are trusted friends and adults you are comfortable talking with? What would you like to be able to tell them? What color is your mood today? Why? Color this into the box below. Draw a picture that represents you and your personality. It can be a drawing of you or something abstract like interesting colors and shapes. What characteristics about yourself are you most proud of? What makes you feel happy? Activity, song, book, movie, friend. What makes you feel calm? Circle the things that help you relax. Reading, drawing, shower, bath, sleeping in, warm blanket, talking to someone, stretching, exercising, baking, crafting, a favorite movie, journaling. Jot down other skills that help you feel calm. When do you feel like you need help? What can you do when you feel this way? What 3 things are you really good at? How do you help your family? What do you need from your family to be your very best? Complete the sentences. Today I'm feeling, tomorrow I want to, in the future I hope brain tumors are, I wish that the best thing about my parent is. Make a list of things that make your family unique and special. Write a paragraph about how you feel after completing this journal. Consider the following. Do you feel better? Do you need support? Who can you talk to? What is your action plan? What is something positive you will do for yourself today? What have you learned about yourself through this experience? How can you use your experience to help others? Draw a picture that describes your feelings right now. The final section is community resources. And those are the National Brain Tumor Society that you can find at braintumor.org. Their events include walks, rides, races, support for fundraising events. The American Cancer Society at cancer.org. Their events include the Relay for Life, Schools versus Cancer, and Hope on the Slopes. And finally, the American Brain Tumor Association at abta.org. Their events include a BT 5K, run and walk, and support for fundraising events. And here's my final thoughts. I hope that at the end of this book and journal, you walk away understanding 2 very important points. First, your feelings matter. You may not be the one battling a brain tumor, but your parents' illness will have a significant impact on you and your family. How you feel and how you cope with those feelings is very important. Your parents love you. Your community loves you. Things may be tough for everyone, and some people in your family may need a little extra grace and forgiveness when times are stressful. Be kind to yourself and those in your family. Ask for help when you need it. Try to find a healthy and productive outlet for your emotions. Second, You are not alone. Many families all over the world have faced similar challenges. Kids like you have felt these same feelings. Reach out to your parents, a school counselor, therapist, or social worker if you need help managing your feelings. I was a kid like you once, going through all the same emotions. You are not alone in your experience. And there are many kind and compassionate helpers in our communities that would like to help you if you ask for it. From my family to yours, I wish you much love and goodness. Thank you for opening your heart to learn from this book. Continue being your most strong, precious, and kind self. I'm so grateful a little piece of my heart and my family found its way to you. Peace.